I'd like to show a visual aid. Let's bring up the first slide if we can, Mike. This is a chart that reflects the results of a study comparing the search rankings of 3 popular price comparison sites and those of Google Shopping. Now, the 3 popular price comparison sites results are depicted in various shades of green, and the Google results are depicted in red. These particular data points were gathered in April of this year, and they represent the ranking results from 650 shopping-related keyword searches. While NextTab, PriceGrabber, and Shopper all show significant variation, ranking first for some and near 50th for others, Google has a very consistent rate of success. Google Shopping ranked 3rd in virtually every single instance. So to be clear, your testimony a moment ago that these Google Shopping rankings almost exclusively in the 3rd spot are in fact the result of the same algorithm as the rankings for the other comparison sites?
There's a conflation of 2 different things going on in this study, which I've not seen, so I shouldn't comment beyond that. There's a difference between sites that do product comparison and sites that offer products themselves. Google Product Search is about getting you to a product. And so we tend to look for the product as opposed to the product comparison in this particular case, which is why the product is more highly ranked than the result of a product comparison site. If you did the same study with all of the other product sites, you would find a very different result.
Okay. So if we call this a product search, if we call the result a Google product result, that is not subject to the same algorithmic search input that brings about the other organic algorithmic search results.
Again, I'm sorry I may have confused you, and I apologize. We do product search ranking. Things like the companies that are mentioned there are price comparison shopping. They're different animals, if you will. They're important, they do different things. Google product search is about searching for specific products. In that sense, product search does something similar to what PriceGrabber, NextTab, and Shopper does, which is why the confusion exists. It's an apples to oranges comparison.
Why is it that they're always third? I mean, it seems to me that this is an uncanny
well, again,
statistical coincidence, if we can call it that. Third every single time. I mean, there are a few outliers where you're first, or you're third, or you're fourth. You're also, interestingly enough, occasionally 11th. You're never 12th. You're certainly never 50th or anything close to it. And yet, every one of those others will find themselves everywhere along the spectrum. Everywhere. You're always third, almost every time. How do you explain that?
Well, again, I'd have to look at the specific results. Because we rank.
Well, we've got the results right here. Just look.
No, I'd actually need to see the technical details to give you a direct answer. But in general, what's happening here is you're having product comparison sites, and their results are being compared against Google answers, which are products, and the two cannot be properly compared, and that's why I think you're seeing such a strange result.
Okay. It seems to me, for whatever it's worth, when I see this, when I see you magically coming up third every time, that seems to me that I don't know whether you call this a separate algorithm or whether you've reverse engineered one algorithm, but either way, you've cooked it so that you're always third. Let's move on to the next slide.
Senator, may I simply say that I can assure you we've not cooked anything.
Well, okay. You have an uncanny ability and an uncanny natural attraction to the number 3 in that instance. Let's look at this search result. Now, among the natural search results, the Google listing, the Google products listing, is the only result that includes the photo. We've highlighted it here in blue just to demonstrate here that it's different, but there's nothing online that actually differentiates it as necessarily a Google listing. There's nothing that indicates that this is an advertisement, that it's even Google. And it's also the most prominent given its placement.
So again, that's not an ad. That is an organic search result. Which is triggered by a product search database which we have gathered by searching and ranking offerings from many different vendors. If you actually click within that, you'll see that you'll actually go to the vendor that will then sell you the product.
Okay. I'm going to want to follow up on that, but I see my time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schmidt, I just want to make clear and get a statement on the record under oath. Does Google give any preference to its own listings, places or shopping results, etc., in its own natural search ranking results?
Again, the reason I was a little confused by your earlier question is the word preference. We have a product called Universal Search, and Universal Search chooses how to organize the page. And so that decision includes many components in the natural search. It will, for example, when we think you're looking for a product, we will pop out this product search essentially insert that you showed earlier. And if you go through that product search thing that we put out, it actually, as I pointed out, takes you to other sites that actually then want to sell products. So the answer is we give preference, but we give preference in the context of our best judgment as to the sum of what the person wants to do. Did I help answer your question? I apologize for not answering earlier.
Yes, I think that helps answer the question. So it does give preference to those lead, perhaps in the case of the camera, not to your own camera sales port, but to another page where you're maybe not selling cameras, but you're selling advertisements. And if anyone clicks on that, you get advertising.
In that case, I don't actually think there's any advertising component into that decision, but I take your point.
Okay. In preparing for this hearing, I was uncertain as to what might be the full extent of my concerns regarding Google's current practices. But some of my fears, I have to say, have been confirmed as a result of our conversation. I'd just like to summarize, Mr. Schmidt, what some of those concerns are. I am troubled by some of Google's practices, its practice of inserting its own offerings in the midst of natural algorithmic search results, usually in the most prominent position of the page and with the most eye-catching display. And my concerns related to this are really threefold. First, this practice seems to me to leverage Google's primary search dominance, to give its own secondary services and listings an unnatural and an extraordinary advantage. No other specialized business or search site can hope to compete on anything close to a level playing field when Google uses its significant market power to disadvantage online competitors. Second, this same practice that I described presents a clear and inherent conflict of interest. Rather than acting as an honest broker of information, Google now has a strong financial incentive to channel users to its own listings, regardless of their quality. As Google Vice President Marissa Mayer noted, to the degree that we, meaning Google, host content, we ultimately have a monetary incentive to drive people to those pages if those pages have ads on them. Finally, I worry that this practice harms consumers. Manipulating algorithmic search results violates consumers' legitimate expectations, and by unfairly disadvantaging competing services, it may ultimately reduce consumer choice and stifle innovation. Again, Mr. Schmidt, I'm troubled by what we've learned today about Google's practices, and I hope that you will take swift action necessary to resolve these concerns. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.